Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be discussing how to stretch your dog's shoulder. So this is important for a couple reasons. One, if your dog is young and healthy, we can maintain good function through the joint, through the musculature that stabilizes the joint. And this is really good because it can help to prevent injuries in the future. Now, they're not going to be bulletproof, but why this is also important is if they do get injured in the future, you'll have a better understanding of how the joint range of motion and flexibility works in that part of your dog. So if they do get injured, then you can identify that a lot quicker, and then you can help to mitigate it by doing the right things to try to improve that condition. Now, the other side of the coin is if your dog's a little bit older and they are suffering from ongoing mechanical conditions like osteoarthritis, or they're having some other joint diseases that are causing tightness in the shoulder and the lower neck, and you're noticing that there's atrophy maybe in the musculature on the one side compared to the other, so that's wasting of the muscle, so it's going to look a lot less defined, then you're going to want to try to prevent that from progressing at a faster rate. And how you do that is by trying to maintain the function that is still there. So a couple things to note before we dive into into the stretching of the shoulder is you have to understand what the end feel is of the joint. And what I mean by that is you can be getting a hard end feel or a spongy end feel, and those mean different things. So if you don't understand what that is, then you shouldn't be stretching your dog. I'll link to a video up here that I did recently. It's very short, but I think it's really good for you to have some background knowledge of what you're feeling when you're stretching the dog. So check that out. The other thing that I want to reference is this book here. It's about how to stretch your dog at home. So if you're a dog owner and you want to learn more about different stretches you can do, different parts of your dog body, then this book is pretty thorough and it will teach you a lot. But the best part about it is it goes through some of the anatomy. So why that's important is when you're stretching the dog, you'll actually be able to visualize what is happening in the joint, in the musculature, when you have that background information. So I'll put that in a link down below. First off, when we're talking about the shoulder, we're ultimately talking about the glenohumeral joint. And where that sits is right in the front here of the dog. So there's the humerus that comes up from the elbow, and then you have the shoulder blade that comes in and forms this glenohumeral joint with the humerus of the upper arm. Now, the humerus is pretty small relative to what humans is like in a dog, but what you want to do, because that's technically a ball and socket joint, when you move this joint, you want to keep it in plane with the way the dog would normally run. So you don't want to, Bo's not behaving here, but you typically don't want to drag it up really high and make it open up, or you don't want to cross the body too far either when you're doing this stretch. You want to typically keep it in plane with how a dog would run. So for Bo here, if he actually cooperates, you essentially want to isolate the movement by somewhat pinning down the shoulder blade. And all you're going to do is grab behind the elbow and then bring the arm up. You can hold that stretch for about 20 to 30 seconds. And then you can also bring it down as well. And you can really appreciate that movement through the glenohumeral joint. The other thing, though, that's really important to understand is you always want to stretch, if there's one affected joint, you want to stretch the joints that are adjacent to it. So in this case, it would be the elbow, as we talked about, and it would also be the shoulder blade and how the shoulder blade moves relative to the thorax or the rib cage. So with the shoulder blade, you can come back up to the top of the withers here. You can put your thumbs just on the top of that, and you can create a little bit of motion so you can see that whole arm move. But really what's happening here is we're just separating the shoulder blade from the rib cage. So Bo has pretty good separation, and it's always best obviously to do this when the dog is non-weight bearing. The other thing you can do is just do the elbow. You're just going to bend it up, and then you're going to extend it out. Now, you don't want to overextend the elbow or overflex it, just because when you're going through the full extension, there is a bony blockage there. You're not going to get much stretching in the bicep muscles. There is a bony blockage there, so you're not going to get much stretching in the muscles in the front of the elbow. So that's basically it in a nutshell. The last thing that you can do, which I really like doing with dogs when you are stretching and you're just working with them, is doing traction to the joint. Because this is a weight-bearing joint, unlike our glenohumeral joint, tractioning and opening that joint allows joint fluid to rush in there and creates a little bit of relief and creates better lubrication of that joint, which is always good in any degenerative type condition. So what you can do here is you can literally just grab the elbow, You can pin the shoulder blade a little bit, and all you're gonna do is just traction away from the shoulder joint. And if you see the dogs fighting back, don't force into that. If the dog is guarding, there's a reason why they're guarding. You wanna try to get them to relax the best you can, and then just work with the dog and build some trust in there before you start reefing on any of those joints and muscles. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down below and I'll be happy to help. Take care.